anything can be faked in this day and age, right? Just like anything. But so too can it be investigated and dissected and analyzed and picked apart using state-of-the-art technology. So we enlisted an internationally renowned expert in evidence and crime scene reconstruction to examine that Las Vegas video. And we thought surely he would have some answers, and he did. They just weren't the answers that we were expecting.
Out of all the stories that I've ever covered here on this YouTube channel, the Las Vegas UFO story is one of the stories, or the story, that I think about the most. Whenever I think about or talk about aliens or UFOs, I always bring up the Las Vegas UFO story, simply because I think it's the biggest alien / UFO story of the modern age, definitely of my lifetime, at least for now. I'm sure in the coming years we will have bigger UFO stories that will make this story look like child's play. We may forget about this story in the near future because of all of the UFO information that is constantly coming out these days. But this story, there's something about it. And I can't sit here, and I won't sit here and pretend as if I know exactly what happened that night. A lot of people will pretend to be experts, and they will try to explain to you exactly what happened, but the truth is, none of us know. Not even the family that experienced whatever they experienced that night. They don't even know. They won't even pretend to know what it is they saw or what it is they actually experienced. So I can't tell you exactly what happened that night, but I can guarantee you that something happened. What that something is, we may never know, but there's so much evidence that shows that something happened that night. Something odd, something strange, something unexplainable, something unhuman, if you will. And not only did the general public gain interest in this story, not only were UFO enthusiasts interested in this story, we know the government was interested as well, because we know that they lied about being the local police department, and they came to that home and they set up surveillance equipment. And to this day, I fear for the safety of that family. Because honestly, I think if they were a little more transparent and a little more out there trying to get this information out there, something may have happened to them by now. But they've been silent. They've been sitting back for almost an entire year. The entire family they don't want anything to do with the media. They don't want to talk about this at all. They're scared. There's only one family member that will come forward and actually talk about it. But ever since this happened, people have been dissecting the footage, trying to find something. And in my opinion, when people are dissecting this footage and they're pointing out all of this stuff, if anything, I don't think they're adding credit to the story. I feel like they're discrediting the story, because they're pointing out all of these shadows and all of these things. And to me, the video that the family captured that night it's not the most compelling evidence when it comes to this story. But a lot of people have been dissecting it. They've been talking about it for almost a year now.
It's one thing to squint at a fuzzy video on YouTube and then decide space aliens do or do not exist. And it's another thing entirely to subject those sightings to the same kind of scientific rigor that puts, say, killers in prison. Scott Roeder is that kind of skeptic. He is an evidence expert and crime scene reconstructionist with 33 years of experience and 1,500 cases to his credit. He is the founder of the Evidence Room, a group that assembles specialists in forensic animation, 3D modeling, and motion graphics. He took a close look at the video that was recorded by that family in Las Vegas, and he applied his technology to try to debunk it. Here he is on his YouTube channel, Crime Scene, discussing what he calls the entity in the family's backyard.
We can take a video and look at whether or not there is an artificial artifact added to it or not. And in this case, we can definitively say, to a degree of scientific certainty, that this entity, this thing in the video, is there in the physical reality in which the Kenmore family is also there. Like, this is so critical because you can clearly see through the slots in the fence that there is a leg motion moving from the right to the left side of the screen. And clearly it is behind there. So this isn't just like a head floating in space. This is a head of that is somehow that does not have full opacity, that the opacity of the head of the shadow is only at about 33% opacity versus a normal shadow, which would be at 100% opacity, or an object in the screen, which is at 100%. And this isn't anything that you did. It's just what you were able to determine, that this shadow being, or this being in the shadows, possibly creating its own shadow or smoky filter or cloaking technique, is not only cloaking itself from the people there, but cloaking itself from the camera itself, in that it's minimizing our ability to identify pixels inside of that shadow.
Now listen, as I was saying, I don't know about you all. Maybe you see something that I'm not seeing here. I see the shadow in the tree, but I don't see this big creature walking behind the fence. And the family doesn't look like they're reacting to something that would be right there behind the fence. It looks like they're reacting to something that's further in the backyard. And I believe it was supposedly by the bulldozers or whatever that equipment is in their backyard, tractors, whatever you want to call it, forklifts, whatever it is. So people have been dissecting this footage for a long time. I'm glad that they were able to detect that, there's no tampering with this footage. So whatever you see is actually there. But in my opinion, I don't think we see anything in this video. That's just my opinion. Maybe you all see something different. If you do, let me know down in the comments below.
I'm joined now by UFO expert Ben Hansen. He's a former federal agent and now the host of UFO Witness on Discovery Plus. Ben, it's great to have you on the program tonight again. So, I mean, your reaction to what, Scott Roeder did with his analytics, the shadow that you saw that was behind the fence as well as way above the fence. I guess your reaction to all of that.
Well, thanks, Ashley. Yeah, I'm excited because it took a while, I think, for anyone to get a copy of the raw video. I don't personally have it, but I'm glad that Scott has done this. I don't detect anything overt as a red flag that I would say that made me suspect that it was edited. So I concur with him on that. And it also appears that there is some sort of shadow that's present behind the slats of the fence, which he pointed out. And then you have kind of a head, it looks like, at the top of the fence. Where I kind of feel that it might be a jump is people online then started to say, well, this is evidence of a cloaking creature of some sort. There is a lot going on in the video. If you look, there's 2 or 3 different light sources. And anytime you have that happening, you can have a lot of shadows from different angles. So unfortunately, we'll never have the same exact circumstance where we can go back and test it to see what might be causing a shadow effect.
There is this one aspect of it, and I'm not sure if our producers can just let the video go, but when they walk in past the gate, something startles them and they freak out. I mean, for lack of a better description, it's not. There's no way this is acting. Actors don't do it this well. Something startles them to the right, and they spin around and they kind of run out, and the video kind of goes, as it would if you were terrified.
It does, and I think that is genuine. If you look, I think they're looking at something towards the back of the yard, and something spooks them. Where I feel that it might be a little bit of, I don't know, call it forensic gymnastics, is to say that it was caused by this thing off to the right, because you can see right there, that shadow appears on top of the fence, but he's not looking to the right. If this was some sort of entity that was like 3 feet away from him, I think that's what would really scare anybody. So that's where you have these theories that people are saying, well, it's partially cloaked, it's fully cloaked, didn't want to be seen, but only the video picked it up. So I don't know about that. I think just based on the video, though, it's great that we have verification that it's not been edited.
I know you talk about confirmation bias as well. Explain to the audience if how you think that might be working its way into this as an alternative theory.
Well, if you think about it and go back to the original, the whole background of what just preceded this is you had this really bright object that streaked across the sky, right? And I do believe that that now is a meteoroid, and it may have nothing to do with the family's actual sighting. They believe they saw a light come down to their backyard. And there was a lot of light and commotion, noise. And so when they went out to the backyard, they're already adrenaline's pumping. They're hypersensitive to sights and sounds. I'm in no way suggesting that they made anything up, but perception can be skewed now that this is something out of this world we're out to see in our backyard. And then anything that might have a combination of shadows or sights they're not used to, it can be amplified in your visual perception. And that's just a suggestion, but I do feel the witnesses are being credible as far as describing what they saw. And especially look at that reaction when they see whatever it is back there and they come running out of there, and it's affected at least Angel to this day. He still has trouble with what he saw.
Thank you.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a meteor. Listen, gone are the days where people believed that nonsense. It must be swamp gas. It's a hot air balloon. No. We know that there's some weird-ish out there flying around the sky. Where it comes from, I don't know. Is it from outer space, a distant planet? Is it from the deep bowels of hell within the crust of our earth? Is it from the U.S. government? Maybe from China? Maybe from Vladimir Putin himself? Nobody knows. But we know that there's stuff out there flying around. It's already been confirmed. The cat is out of the bag. And once the cat is out of the bag, it's gonna take a while to put it back in there. So when we have these fake explanations as to what these occurrences could be, I just roll my eyes at this point. Because I thought we were past that. I thought we were past that point. Secret government agencies don't show up at your house to install surveillance cameras while lying about being the local police department because a comet or a meteor flew over your city. That just doesn't happen. So, as I was saying earlier, we don't know what happened that night. But I fully believe that something came down in that family's backyard. And I honestly think that this is going to be one of those stories. One of those stories that they cover up for years. One of those stories that comes back up in conversation every time someone talks about UFOs. And it will be covered up for years. And who knows, maybe 80 years from now, 100 years from now, they'll finally come out and tell people the truth. Our grandkids or our grandkids will know what happened in Las Vegas that night. We might not, but I think eventually down the line, some information is going to come out of this. The fact that this happened in Las Vegas, which seems to be like an area with a lot of UFO activity, and an area where we already know the U.S. military test all types of crazy equipment out there in the desert. So, I think there's a possibility here that this could have been some type of military equipment. But whatever it is, we know that government agencies took an interest in it. We know that they took this story very seriously. And if they took this story seriously, why shouldn't we? So let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you would like to donate, you could donate via Cash App or Super Thanks. But for free, you could help the channel by liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. But with all of that being said, I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.